Hello everyone, today we are here to talk about types of World of Tanks Blitz players. This is the remastered video of the entire series, so you can expect a few types to be repeated. Now, before the video starts, I do have to make a disclaimer. This video is just for entertainment. So basically, if you feel like you're one of these types, I don't really mean it if it's a bad one or even a good one. This video is just to make fun of how people play the game, but it's nothing serious, so do not take it as such. Now, let's start off with the newbie. The newbie is obviously the player who just launched the game for the first time. They're learning the game and they mostly like to stay near bushes for some reason. I mean, with tank destroyers like I'm doing right now with the Scorpion G, that's understandable. The MX is a bit... I mean, it's understandable, I guess, because he doesn't have a lot to rely on. One of the heavies decided to go on the right side, so there's only the ML1 up there on the hill. So yeah, I guess he's doing his job, although there are a few tank destroyers, like the one he's going around right now, that are not actually supposed to camp. But anyways, moving on. New players, they really like to camp. They will eventually, hopefully, someday learn that camping, especially with mediums or light tanks, isn't exactly the best way to win the match. After the new player, we have the exact opposite, the pro player. The pro player is, well, what it sounds like. The pro player will absolutely exterminate the enemy team. There's no chance. They will completely smash the enemy, even with horrible tanks. Um, I mean, the speak is not horrible, but it's a tank that requires a lot of skill because it has no armor, really, at all. Um, but yeah, even with horrible tanks or tanks that require a lot of skill like the speak, the pro player is going to absolutely destroy higher tiers. Now, after the pro player, we have the YouTuber. The YouTuber, I mean, sorry, the YouTuber, I'm considering people that have above 1k subscribers. So the YouTuber is, well, a regular player that has a YouTube channel. These players are very oftenly focused, especially you, Midzi. But yeah, these players are very focused by their subscribers. I get it, it's a YouTuber, he's famous, get the YouTuber. But most YouTubers, I mean, there are a few pro YouTubers, but most of them kind of just want to play the game to chill out sometimes. Now, after the YouTuber, we have the Salty Kid. Oh boy, here we go again. The Salty Kid, also known as the 9-year-old. The Salty Kid is a player that is very common in World Tanks Blitz. These players will rage for absolutely no reason at all. Like, let's imagine you shoot one of them, and there comes a cuss word through the chat. These players are extremely toxic, and they rely on stat shaming. These players always do their best to have their stats good, not because they want to look good in game, but because they want to have higher stats than most people, so they can stat shame them. These players are just probably, I mean, we call them 9-year-olds as a stereotype, but they're probably actual 9-year-olds. Now, we have a particular specimen of the Salty Kid, the Hypocrite Salty Kid. These these salty kids are basically players who go around in regular non-premium or non-collector tanks. So basically tech tree tanks. And these players rage a lot at premium or collector tanks. They will usually go like, premium noob or golden noob. But then when you check their profiles, they literally spam the gold a lot, or they literally have more premiums than you do. These players are, as you can probably guess by the name and by what they do, incredibly hypocrite. They rage at what others do, but then they do exactly the same, or they own exactly the same, or even more than what they're complaining about. After the hypocrite salty kid, we have the casual. The casual player, as the name suggests, is a player who plays the game just for fun. They don't care about winning, they don't care about grinding, they just want to blow some stuff up. Which, it's a pretty good thing, you know, you kind of just want to have your own fun, you don't want to destroy anyone else's day, you don't want to rage, you don't want to become super try hard with the game. But these players often fail to realize that their lack of wanting to win the match will result in harming their teammates who are actually trying to win the match or trying to grind tanks. I mean, just imagine you are doing your best to grind to a tier 10 tank, or you just want to win the match for an event, but then you have this random dude with over 50k battles, and he's just going around shooting, and he doesn't care about angling, he doesn't care about anything. And when you tell him, dude, what are you doing? He just tells you, I'm a casual. Being a casual is not an excuse to being completely careless when it comes to your teammates. Remember, if you're having fun, also harms your teammates, by which I mean, if you're having a lot of fun but you don't care about winning, you're not doing your efforts in the battle, you are harming other people. You are basically taking away the innocence of what being a casual means. People who are casual, please, just please try to do your best. Some of your teammates actually care, so don't destroy their match. Anyways, off to the cheater. Oh boy, here we go again, version 2. So as you may have seen from my previous video, the cheater is mostly a player who uses illegal mods. Usually the mods refer to hit skins. Hit skins are just basically skins that show off modules on enemy tanks, such as ammo racks, fuel tanks. So basically, if you see someone that's always hitting your ammo rack or always setting someone on fire, either they know what they're doing or they might be using a hit skin. Now, after the cheater, we have the OP tank abuser. This is a player who is sadly very common, especially in tier 7. You can very oftenly find these players spamming either the Smasher or the Annihilator, and they kind of do the thing for the whole day. Yeah, they kind of just play only overpowered tanks for the whole day. They don't do anything else, literally. Now, there are those who spam these tanks to grind statistics, to get better win rates, and at the same time, not going to Seal Club. So, in a way, these players are either doing this because they have fun with only those tanks, or they just like to have an advantage over everyone else, or, as I said right now, they want to get better statistics. After the OP tank abuser, we have the damage sponge. Oh yeah. Yeah, the damage sponge. Now this is a type of new player that I decided to just cut away from the regular new player, because these new players are becoming more and more common. Have you ever often found a teammate or an enemy who kind of just took shots and sat there? He was literally getting shot at, but he just sat there taking all of those shots. He didn't move, he just kept sitting there, shooting at the enemy, or very oftenly missing, and the only time they move away is when they're low hit points. Well, that's the damage sponge. This player very oftenly camps, and they only move from their camping spot when they're very low hit points. Now, this is obviously not a good strategy, because as you're seeing right now, LP is being able to completely smash the Tiger and hopefully the Jackson. I haven't watched this replay yet, but I'm pretty sure he's going to kill the Jackson because he has enough hit points, because he didn't YOLO. I mean, he camped, yeah, but that's just because he's on a good camping TD. But overall, preserve your hit points. Don't YOLO. Speaking of YOLO, we have the YOLO Master. These players are a very hypocrite. They basically just rush out into the enemy team, get killed, and then they blame their team for being absolutely useless. These players are, I'd say they could fall into the toxic kid category, but since they don't just ruin the match with the chat, they ruin it with their behavior, they may even cost wins. I'm going to consider them as a separate type of player from the toxic kids. After the YOLO Master, we have the team leader. Now, this is usually a player who is pretty damn good. These players might not be pros, but at least they have a good understanding of what their team composition is. Such as, when their team is mostly medium tanks, they kind of want to go on the medium side since they will have the advantage there, instead of just ordering everyone to go into the heavy side just because they have a heavy, only to die and to complain on the team chat of the team being, what was the word? Unsupportive? Yeah, because I met a player who was with a heavy tank and he just rushed into the enemy team telling the entire team to go on the heavy side. Dude, we are literally not going to lose the advantage of 6 tanks just because you have a tank. That's not one of those 6 tanks. If I make myself understood. But anyways, moving aside from the team leader, we have the complete opposite, which is basically what I just described. The dead team leader. And yeah, it's just literally what I said. These players will very often consider only their tank. They will not consider their team's tanks. They will not consider the map. They will only consider what's best for themselves. Then these players will just usually die, and then they will complain about the team being bad and unsupportive, and that the TTs are useless, etc, etc, etc. These players are also a type of raging kid, but that I decided to separate. After the bad team leader, we have the buyer. Rest. Come on, you gotta admit that you're a bit of this. The buyer is a player who buys anything. Crates, tanks, doesn't matter if it's good or not, doesn't matter what happens, they will usually just spam crates until they eventually get the tank. Doesn't matter how much money they lose, they will just keep on buying. Doesn't matter if the tank is good, doesn't matter anything, they will just buy. These players usually have a garage filled up with premiums, collectors, they have a lot of camouflages, a lot of avatars. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the buyer. They're usually average players as well, because pro players kind of know what they're supposed to buy and what they're not. After the buyer, we have the AFK. Oh, what's wrong? I'm not saying anything? Oh, that's because that's the AFK player. The AFK player kind of just sits around and they're like, start a match, and they're like, oh, wait, I have to go to sleep. And then they literally leave the match in the middle of it, or well, at the start of it, most of them leave at the start, only for their team to lose due to them. Yeah, these players, I mean, when it comes to AFKs, I have some contradictory opinions. Because sure, it's incredibly annoying and frustrating for you to have a player who is literally not doing anything, but at the same time, you don't know what happened, you know? It could have been their fault. They could be doing that on purpose just to troll out the entire enemy team. Calm down, we'll get to trolls in a second. But as I was saying, they could be doing that just to troll out the entire team, or they could have really have a power outage, or their router died, or their phone stopped working. You never know. That's the problem about AFKs. You never know what happened to them. After the AFK, we have the laggy player. I mean, you'd be better off with a laggy player because they're at least trying to do something, but ultimately they will never achieve anything. Why? Because they spend most of the match just ramming a building. Have you ever seen someone who is just constantly going against a building? They're not doing anything, they're just looking at the building and ramming it. Well, that's a laggy player. They're having a poor Wi-Fi connection, or maybe it's Wargaming servers trolling them, and they're stuck on that position, they cannot do anything. These players usually have some bad Wi-Fi company, and they complain a lot sometimes. It's kind of weird, like they spend the entire match AFK or just ramming a building, and then they complain that their team is useless. Like, okay, it might not be your fault that you went AFK, but at least, well, AFK, it might not be your fault that you lagged out, but at least don't complain about your team when you literally did nothing. After the laggy player, we have the troll. Now, you may have seen some videos about those fake clans on, I think it's NA, and yeah, these players just basically create fake clans and they ram other players. They're usually found with German heavy tanks, especially the mouse, because it's the heaviest tank in the game. So they basically, their only goal is to ram players. They don't care about winning, they don't care about anything, they kind of just get their own teammates stuck there, and they don't do anything. They just want their teammates to die. They want to be, sorry for the word, but they want to be assholes for everyone, even for the enemy team sometimes. After the troll, we have the seal clover. Now this is a endangered species, especially due to the 5.5 update. You can still see a few of them, but nowadays it's just mostly new players in low tiers. But yeah, the seal clover is usually a player who enjoys low tiers, either to farm win rate or just because it can be sometimes fun. Yeah, that's just basically it. That's the seal clover. They just like to play on low tiers. After the Seal Clubber, we have the Sweaty Tryhard. Now this can be easily mistaken by the pro player. No, really, just kidding. The Sweaty Tryhard will always complain. These players always want to have the best statistics, they want to be the best in everything. But when they fail, or when sometimes even just one shot is enough to make them into an explosion of salty insults and reports on Wargaming's forum of you cheating. These players are just overall basically another variation of the salty kid, but instead of just wanting to win and having fun like most salty kids do, these really want to win. These really want to get everything done. These probably want to go on the Twister Cup, but they will end up in the Band Cup. After the Sweaty Tryhard, we have the Stealth Noob. The Stealth Noob is literally a noob player, but instead of them being noobs that actually try to talk or say something, they don't say anything. They kind of just. It's like if they turned off the chat. They just go in their own lives. They don't care about their team. They're kind of like a lone wolf, but instead of them being a good lone wolf, they kind of just miss about everything, die, leave the match, and repeat. Which it's a pretty big detrimental to their team. They're basically a 6 versus 7. After the stealth noob, we have the average player. Well, it's literally an average player. They like to win, they don't rage much, well, or anything, because, you know, if you rage, you fall right into the salty kid category. But yeah, they're just average players. They don't really have a lot of premiums, they just play the game, they want to have fun, and they want their team to win. But they don't want to force the win, they don't play broken vehicles to win. They just let the wins happen, they try their best, and if they win, good, that's good. After the average player, we have yet again another stereotype from the toxic kid or the 9-year-old or whatever you want to call it, which is commonly known as the 1 versus 1 sweat. These players usually have the VK72 since it's a pretty good heavy tank in 1v1, especially against tanks like the IS-4. And they believe that 1v1s prove the ultimate form of skill. 1v1s are the truest way of you admitting that you're better than someone else. Well, not really, because let's just stop replay right here. Tell me, what do you see? Aside from dead tanks, tell me, what do you see up here? I see 7 people here and I see 7 people here. And this is a normal World Tanks Blitz match. In a normal match, you're rarely going against someone in 1 versus 1. So 1v1s in World Tanks Blitz are completely and utterly useless. You can completely suck at a 1 versus 1, but be an absolute god in matches. Because 1 versus 1s are useless, these players very often fail to understand this, and when they do win, they just like to brag to literally anyone. After the... what was his name? The 1 versus 1 sweat, we have the reroller. Now, the reroller is a player who is not content with his current newbie statistics. They kind of have a feel of how the game is, they understand which tanks are broken, and then they wait. They wait for a broken tank to show up on the shop, even if it's on crates, and then they create a new account, they get the tank, and then they spam it. They spam this tank so they can already have high tier average, and so they do have better win rate. They don't want their new player statistics to ruin their statistics. Yeah, basically for these guys, statistics is all that matters. I mean, I do understand rerollers who make a reroll not for the sake of statistics, but for the sake of they maybe made a mistake on the tech tree, they lost a lot of credits, and it would be better to start all over again. Those guys are perfectly fine. But trust me, most of the time, it's the I want to be a super unicum type of player. After the reroller, we have the room players. Now, these players just basically spend their day playing on rooms, which it's okay. Some of them like to make battles in rooms that kind of just don't want to lose credits, or they want to play with tanks that are barely played, but they know that if they play with those tanks, they will be a detriment to their team. Overall, these players are pretty okay. They kind of just do their own thing, you know? After the room player, we have the weird room player, and this is probably a kid. Now, the weird room players are very often characterized by two things. They fail to understand the room's descriptions, and rules, and they also have some very poor English. And when I mean poor, it's not like my type of English poor, it's some stuff that even I would never say. But yeah, these players, I mean, I can literally just make a room that is literally in the title, please read description. Like, imagine, I make a stream room, and I say, please read description. And then, on the first part of the description, it says, this room is just an ad. I am not going to start matches. This room is literally just here to inform people that I'm streaming and I would like them to join the stream. Well, these players will very often fail to realize all this, and they will just go on the room's chat and be toxic, saying like, admin is shit, unsubscribe from your channel, even though they were never subscribed in the first place. Otherwise, they would know that I was streaming and they would know what I was doing. But yeah, overall, these players kind of just think that all the rooms are the same, or if I'm streaming, they kind of just read the live on YouTube part and they fail to read everything else, literally saying, I'm not going to start matches, and then they're complaining that I'm not going to start matches. Yeah, that's gotta be a kid. After the weird room player, we have the room killer. Now these players devote their lives into grinding the FV250B1A3 or the mouse, and then they just raid rooms. They kill everyone, they don't care. It's kind of like trolling, but at the same time you're not actually harming anyone. I mean, you piss them off, but you don't actually make them lose credits or win rate. But it's still trolling nonetheless. They just basically destroy entire rooms. They don't care why. They don't care what caused them. They just destroy them. That's apparently what they have fun with. After the room killer, we have the newbie with high tier premiums. Oh, why is this even a thing? So, you know how Wargaming allows new players to buy the tanks they want as soon as they finish the tutorial from the shop? Yeah, this type of player is exactly why new players should not have instant access to the shop. Because they just reach high tiers with premiums only to absolutely fail with them. I'm going to tell you a personal story of mine. I was once playing on, I think it was Copper Mines or Copperfield or whatever the name of that map is. And there was this Type 69 on my team. And I still have his statistics. I obviously don't have the name. I don't want anyone to go around and shame people. That's exactly why I cut out the name. But I'm still going to display statistics. If I'm editing properly, I should be displaying them right now. And this player literally just camped around. He was full HP, and he just reached a hill, and he just camped there. He just sat there shooting. And then when the entire team died, because they didn't have support from the light tank, he kind of just went around in the corner and then pushed and then died. It was really weird, didn't make any sense. But yeah, these players are exactly why newbies should not have straight up access to the shop. But then again, we all know that Wargaming cares more about money than the new players, than the players' happiness in general, because new players are not only going to ruin themselves, probably think that the light tank is a bad purchase, but they're also going to harm their team. After this, we have the all premiums and collectors are overpowered. Now, these are also hypocrite players, in a way, salty hypocrite players, because they just rage at premiums. They don't care if it's a bad or a good tank, they will rage at it. Even if the tank is as bad or as as II6, they will still rage. They do not care. If it has a yellow or a blue name, it's overpowered, please nerf. Like, I'm pretty sure those guys would even rage saying that the freaking T61 is overpowered. After this, we have the nostalgia player. This is a player who, it's quite rare, but you may see them sometimes playing tanks that really don't make any sense to be played. You know, they're just not in the current meta, or they were removed from the old low tiers. They can especially be found in low tiers because that's what took a huge remove. I guess we call it a remove. They usually are found playing old tanks, like even the freaking D1. The D1 was sold a while ago for some reason. because someone would like to spend money on the D1 apparently. But yeah, sometimes overall you can find these players playing old tanks just for the nostalgia's sake, you know? After this, we have the ratings noob. This is a player who believes that their patience is the best. They kind of just play in rooms until they eventually get a win. Well, not to win, but they eventually get the IS-6 Fearless. I guess that's their main goal. They just keep playing until eventually they get something out of it. After these players, we have the ratings. No, wait. Now, sorry, we have the cosmetics king. Sorry, it's just I have a list over here, and it's just I've read a couple up here. Well, I've read a couple of players down here, just to make sense with the previous ones that I was talking about. But anyways, getting back to the cosmetics king, this is a player who, instead of buying premium tanks, they just spend everything they can in avatars. What was their name again? Attachments, camouflages. They want their tanks to look the best. After the cosmetic skin, we have the direct opposite. The no camo is best camo. These are usually new players who haven't done enough battles or haven't gotten tier 5 yet, so they basically don't have any camouflages. After this type of player, we have the Hoarder. The Hoarder is a player who consists in basically getting as many tanks as they can. Doesn't matter if the tank is good or bad, they're kind of like the buyer, but they actually control themselves when it comes to buying, but their main goal is to own every tank in the game. After the Hoarder, we have the Medal Collector. The Medal Collector is, as the name says, a player who will just focus in doing what medals ask them to, such as killing the last enemy on a match, or taking out, I think it was 4 higher tier tanks with a medium, or taking out 7 enemy tanks, or surviving 3 enemy tanks while being completely alone. You get the idea. These players only want medals. The more medals, the better. And for last but not least, we have the tournament slash clan wars player. That's why I haven't started another play. That's why we're kind of in the end. But yeah, the tournament slash clan wars player is a player who only cares about what's better for tournaments or clan wars. Let's say that you say something like, "Oh, I like the T34 100." Then these players will go around saying, "Ah, why would you like that? It's a tier 7. It won't do anything good in Clan Wars. You should get a tier 8 instead." Yeah, these players are single-mindedly focused on only what's best for Clan Wars. So, I mean, most of the time you should just leave them in their own worlds. They'll probably realize, hopefully someday, that there's an entire game, you know? It's not just Clan Wars and tournaments, you know? We actually have something called by regular matches, where tier 7s are actually important, you know? But yeah, overall, that has been the remastered types of World of Tanks Blitz Players video. Sorry. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Give like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. And please let me know in the comments if I forgot about any types or any stereotypes. I'm just saying types because it's a smaller word of stereotypes. But anyways, goodbye.